If you're looking to buy a stacked NBA 2K account with max badges and more, visit sportstnb.com. He has been in the community for years and has hundreds of reviews. Click the first link in the description to get your account today.
Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload nearly daily on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. The topic of this video stems from something that I'm a little bit late on, but then again, it really has been a topic of discussion ever since the beginning of last season. And that is Harden versus Giannis. However, it also really isn't. As you can tell from the title, this video is on a broader topic of discussion that tends to stem from this conversation around Giannis and Harden, and that is the discussion of skill versus size and athleticism. This conversation has gone well beyond just Giannis and Harden, and it's a conversation that existed well before them. I've seen people dismiss Shaquille O'Neal as an all-time great because of the fact that he really wasn't all that skilled, he was just big. And vice versa, I've seen people criticize Steph because all he does is shoot. And most recently, I saw something on Twitter that truly astounded me. It was a post on NBA Instagram saying that Zach LaVine was a better player than Giannis because Zach can, quote, do whatever from wherever on the court. Now, the fact that this was from NBA Instagram is telling enough, but it was this that really pushed me to finally talk about this topic, because holy shit do people push it way too far in both directions. So, let's talk about it.
Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop.
First of all, I don't think any rational person would believe that any of these categories are way more important than the other. The general conversation is about which one is more important. If you think either just don't matter, well, you're just simply stupid. Contrary to popular belief, I don't like to be mean, but if you believe that, you're fucking stupid. Disregarding one as important and the other not results in takes like Zach LaVine being better than Giannis, which is not a good take. As the biggest Zach LaVine stan out there, well, I guess second to this guy, this is a really dumb take. Now really, before we start diving into this debate, we first need to make a few distinctions. First of all, there is no such thing as a player who is only one of these things, or at least no such thing as a good player. If you are 4'10", slow and weak, you can be the most skilled basketball player of all time, and you're still not going to make the NBA. That's the unfortunate reality. And then on the other hand, you can be 7'3" and extremely athletic and just be Hasheem the Beat. Even a guy like Isaiah Thomas, who is barely taller than my mother, is still very athletic and very strong for his size, and I feel that it is an important distinction when looking at this Giannis versus Harden example. See, where this debate was really sparked was when James Harden said, "It sure would be nice if I could just dunk on every possession," or something like that, I'm paraphrasing. And what stemmed from that was a bunch of memes about Giannis if he was 6'5", comparing him to like Tony Roten, which I'll admit is pretty funny. However, there were really two things that bothered me a lot about how people went about this conversation. One, it was the notion that Giannis is not skilled. First of all, he is a really good passer, he is a good ball handler, and he has phenomenal defensive IQ. Also, the notion that James Harden doesn't benefit from some physical gifts. The guy is very strong, and based on the strip clubs and his overall physique, I'm going to assume a lot of that is natural. He's also pretty athletic himself with some damn good stamina. He runs some of the most in the NBA pretty much ever since his tenure in Houston, and he's been towards the top of the league in minutes season after season. But two, what I hated most about this discussion was it implies that Giannis did not earn how good he is. And this is something that can happen with players outside of Giannis, with guys like Shaquille O'Neal. The problem with this is, on top of being disrespectful to the work that he has put in, it's also just not true. The way people talk about Giannis now is like he came out of his mother as a 7-foot tall, extremely athletic, 250-pound baby. And I understand what I just said was disgusting, but you get what I'm saying. Giannis came into the league weighing 190 pounds soaking wet, and while his frame and athleticism was a great foundation to become an elite player, it was very clear a player as skinny as Giannis was not going to be a star in the NBA unless he either developed an elite perimeter game or put on some muscle. A player that's comparable there is Kevin Durant, except Kevin obviously came into the league with that polish, but there were two directions Giannis had towards dominance: work to refine his skills or work to build his muscle to become a physically dominant player. Both of those paths take a fuck ton of work and a lot of hours in the gym, and they deserve just as much respect as the players who took the second path. If Giannis was 6'5" and he was still able to maintain that athleticism, the work ethic that he has displayed would make him a star in the NBA. I believe that with certainty. Well, you can only be so certain, but you know what I mean. And as I've mentioned with Hashim the Beat, you can have the frame of Giannis, you can have the athleticism of Giannis, and still be a dog shit player. Technically speaking, there have been dozens of players who have been 7 feet tall and extremely athletic. Most of them do not become Giannis. A lot of them become Willie Cauley-Stein. The thing I hate most about the skill side of this argument is people act like if you rely on your body to dominate rather than your ability to cross somebody over and hit a step back, then you aren't a hard worker, when that is quite the contrary. Giannis played the hand he was dealt. He was like, I'm 7 foot tall, I have an extremely long wingspan, I am very athletic, I'm going to build upon that foundation. If Giannis started off with a James Harden-like foundation, I guarantee you he'd be doing similar things to James Harden. This is just like how I was given the advantage of having a 12-inch vertical and weighing way too much, so as a result, instead of being Russell Westbrook, instead, I sometimes hit a spot-up jumper and post up. Now, is it advantageous for Giannis to have that starting point? Yeah, duh. And it's often unfair, but, you know, life's unfair. And at the end of the day, I'm not faulting Giannis for taking advantage of his natural gifts. But now let's get into the discussion of what matters more. As I said in the intro, there are very few all-time greats who do not benefit from both of these. Michael Jordan, freak athlete. LeBron James, freak athlete and freak size. Magic Johnson didn't have to work nearly as hard for his scoring as a 6'9" point guard. Bird was 6'8", but faster than most guys his size. Every center benefited from their size. Really, the only top 10 player of all time that I'd say heavily skews more to one side or the other is Shaq. His dominance was 90% physical. Now, he did work on his touch and his post game, but if I'm going to summarize Shaquille O'Neal as a player, that summary would be, holy fuck, that guy's huge. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the closest guy to like 90% skill would be Steph Curry. And if we're comparing these two to the furthest extremes of pure skill and pure physical attributes, well, I think physicality and athleticism wins that one. Both comparing overall career and absolute peaks, I'm taking Shaq over Steph. So at its absolute maximum potential, I think size and athleticism beat skill, but what about on the other end of the spectrum? That is the ceiling of those two, but now let's talk about the floor. Let's talk about a player who has a good amount of skill, but is not physically gifted, and a player who is physically gifted, but is not that skillful. For example, let's look at Fred VanVleet as a guy who has a lot of skill but is not very athletic and is not big at all, and then take Derrick Jones Jr., who is extremely athletic, has good size, but is overall not that skilled. In this case, I think we would all agree that Fred VanVleet is better than Derrick Jones Jr. Basically, what I'm getting at is that the ceiling of the physical side is higher than that of the skill side, but the floor of the skill side is higher than that of the physical side. At the end of the day, you cannot teach size, but you can get to a level of skill that overtakes the physical. But regardless of that, really what I'm trying to get at here is that players who are physically dominant did not necessarily not earn that dominance. A lot of them worked for that, just like you work for the ability to hit a step-back jump shot. Is it an unfair advantage? Yeah, but tough shit. The average height of an NBA player is 6'7". All of those guys have advantages. And also, James Harden, you sound like a child when you simplify Giannis' game to just dunking on every possession. It's a gross simplification and it's childish, but also it's entertaining and it gives me content, so I'm not going to tell you to stop doing it. But that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.